Hello, my name is Salahuddin Saadat. I'm a PMP certified professional, and I've come across the question that people might have about which methodology is the best for the project, Agile or the Waterfall. So I have put together a few different tools that it might help you to choose which methodology is the best for your project. First of all, let's talk about what's Agile methodology. This is a kind of alternative to the waterfall traditional way of project management, which empowers the people and then makes the people to work together as a team, and then there are lots of discussions and communication between the team, and constantly that there's a cycle of checking to make sure that the product is delivered in a with a high quality and there is no margin of error, and the emphasis on the satisfaction of the customer versus the documentation in the process. So let's talk about the waterfall methodology. The waterfall methodology is the sequential design of the software development or of any project, which goes from the upward to downward, from the requirement to the design to the implementation and verification and maintenance. So if the first stage is not completed, you cannot go to the second stage, and if the second is not completed, you cannot go to the third stage and onward. Now, if I put the question here again, which methodology is the better, Agile or Waterfall, I would say that there is no right or wrong answer which method is to choose, but there is a process to evaluate and decide which method is the better for your specific project. So throughout the slides presentation, I have come across some of the tools that will help you to decide which methodology is the best for your project. The very first question would be the project scope management. In the waterfall environment, the concrete project charter is important. The reduced project scope creep. The scope is well documented and well understood. The scope is not likely to be changed, and the product is unique. Versus if we compare now with Agile, in Agile there are a few different ways of explaining the scope of the project. The project charter may be concrete. It may be evolving. It may be at the very preliminary stage that it's an ongoing process. Until something has not been done, you cannot see further down what's on the road. In Agile methodology, the acceptance of the project scope change at any stage of the project is expected, and mostly Agile is for the product which is unique and creative. So the more creativity, the more you would go toward the Agile methodology. The more documented is toward the Waterfall methodology. We'll go to the project time management. In Waterfall, the time management is important is very important, because if you don't launch a product within the certain time frame, and the project outcome may be useless. But for example, if there are two different phone companies and they are trying to launch a new phone, if one company remains behind, and that's not acceptable, the other company might take over and take more market share or whatever. And waterfall environment, there's a tight timeline for that. You have to finish that within the limited time frame. But in Agile, the timeline is flexible. For example, somebody is trying to bring some renovation to the backyard, and the person is kind of has some idea in mind that what he wants for the backyard to be done, and then but unless some of the work has not been completed, he doesn't know what else he wants to do with the backyard. And the timeline is not that much tough that you have to do in a specific date. Or in opposite, in some of the projects we can say if the timeline is very tight, if you have a really very tight timeline, the Agile system is very important, that that there is a continuous day-to-day discussion between the customer and also between the the program managers and also the development and the whole team involved within the project life cycle. So if there is a very tight timeline, and Agile would be a good option for the project to be chosen. The next option is the cost management. Mostly in the waterfall environment, we have a fixed and pre-approved and pre-agreed budget. So we know how much money needs to be expended, and the budget is approved and is known among the stakeholders. But in an agile environment, the budget is not that much tight. You have the flexibility. You might get more money if need be. Or again, you know that in this situation, I can say that, in other words, if the budget is very limited. For example, there is a company which they want to start a new office, and they call IBM and they ask for the infrastructure for the IT, and the people, the project managers from IBM, which they are well trained about how to set up the whole IT system for the office building, they need money, and they do an analysis of the requirement and then put the project requirement forward, and then it goes forward. But in some of the organizations, you know that they don't have that much money to spend and give the money for the outsider to do a good thorough analysis of the requirement. So when the budget is very limited, you know, the people are trying to do by themselves and they are not well aware about the requirements. And in this kind of situation, an agile method of project management would be better. The next option would be next tool that we are talking about is the quality. In waterfall situation or the methodology, there is a routine quality check for the products, and this quality check, the time frame for the quality check has been documented and agreed between the customer and also the project manager and other the stakeholders of the project. But in agile project methodology, the customer satisfaction is very important, and there are more frequent and repetitive quality check throughout the life cycle of the project. And there is a daily discussion between the various stakeholders of that particular project, and that quality is the top most important thing. It has to be checked as the project moves forward. The next step would be the human resource management. In a waterfall environment or methodology, the human resources are well defined. We know how many people at what time we can acquire, and then when we can lay them off the project. And in a waterfall environment, we require the experienced team to handle the whole process. But in agile methodology, the flexibility of human resources there, the team that are working together, this can be used as kind of a learning platform, enabling people that they go and learn together, discuss together. And in some situations, you know that if the team is not much experienced, they don't have the expertise, and then the agile system will work because they would try to do their best and come together, discuss together, and put the project plan and move the project forward with discussions, with dialogues, with collaboration with each other. Now, if I talk about the end user of the product, so mostly for the waterfall, the end user are the large number of people and spread over the many countries and over within the variety of cultural background. So the end users are spread out all over the world or within the larger community. But for the agile projects, the best thing would be if the end user is a smaller group, and mostly they are at the same office or same building, which they have a face-to-face interaction. Because when we talk about the communication management, then we'll discuss about how the communication will make a difference for these things. So now, communication in a waterfall environment. So it's a scheduled communication, lots of focus on the process and tools, and routine customer collaboration. Versus an agile methodology, the more frequent face-to-face communication is required. It's a must that you have to have a day-to-day face-to-face communication between the customer and the development team and the other stakeholders. There will be lots of individual interactions. There will be lots of customer collaboration. So that's the main communication difference between the two. The other point is the risk management. In the waterfall methodology, the risks are highlighted and documented and continuously and contingency plans are laid out. So everything is well documented, and if there is any risk, the risk has been written down, and the ways if the risk happens, which kind of that actions will be taken. Everything has been documented. But in an agile environment, the risks are difficult to identify. For example, if in an agile there's a project that the scope is not clear, and as the project moves forward, there are changes will come to the scope, and then the risk is bigger because you don't know that how much the scope will be changed over time, and the more the scope is changed, the more the risk of the project is there. So the risk is always there because of the nature of the agile methodology, which is acceptance to the change in any stage of the project. The last but not least, the very important point about the document management. In a waterfall environment, requires a very detailed documentation, a very comprehensive documentation, that everything is written down to very detail about each steps, and about how the product functions and how the product is used, how the product is maintained, and all those things. But in an agile environment, the documentation is not that much important. The important is that the product has to be in a working condition. So the workability of the product is very important. The documentation is lesser important. For example, that if you are working on a project that the people are working in the same environment, in the same office, and they want a software that they have to tackle with some of the issues, and if there are 5 people in that office, and then all of them didn't know how to use the application, and they would never go back to the documentation, and there is no need to spend lots of time to go and document every single thing because everybody would know about it. But again, if you know that the product has been used over a bigger geographical area or different countries, and the people that they don't have face-to-face interaction, then they have to have detailed documentation written for the how to use the product and how to maintain the product, and so on and so forth. So now, as a summary, we can say that the waterfall method is more structured with comprehensive documentation and less flexibility to change during the project lifecycle. But an agile methodology is more innovative with less documentation, rather preferring the working product, and more flexibility to change during the project lifecycle. So this was a quick summary of the tools that I've put together, and I hope that that this would help you when you're trying to choose between the waterfall and agile, which one to choose. This is not an easy question that you just might say yes or no, but I think it needs to be explored about each project, and you need to go and through the checklist and kind of evaluate the project and choose which one is best for the project that you have. Thank you very much for your attention.